Comic books are dead. Long live comic books. Welcome back, my friends. In case you've been living under a comic book rock in the comic book collecting slash reading corner of our wonderful timeline, Diamond Comics Distributors filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy a couple months ago now, and it is reverberating the greater comic sphere. That's right, that's what we are talking about today, because it has everyone in an uproar and everyone's underdrawers in a bunch. And if I can be honest with you from the outset, I write, draw, create my own stories. So the business side of distributing comics, getting them into the hands of the people that theoretically, ostensibly want to read them, has never been my focus. I've always focused on how do I create the most compelling piece of work to tell for whatever reason that I'm trying to tell it, and then have people interact with it, read it, and interact with it. And that figuring out how to get it out into everyone's hands in wider distribution has always honestly just been a mystery to me. And I wish it could just stay that way and that it was simple. But it's not simple. You have to learn how to play the game. And unfortunately, the game has been changing. When I was first working on my independent works many moons ago, and Diamond Comics distributors arose, I wasn't thrilled about it. I didn't understand how it worked. I didn't like that you had to pay X amount just to be a part of it. That's just as at the promotional level, and go along with everything that they're dictating in order to get distributed out to shops and the various vendors. So it's crazy. So we're going to talk about all of this just to give you a heads up. I'm going to do my best to give you a little bit of an overview. I'm going to quote a few articles from here and there, and then also say, hey, let's talk about the future of comics and where we go from here. You should know by now, if you're familiar with Comic-Jutsu or the Comic Book Dojo, that I am a fan of the local comic book shops. I love them. I love going in. They all have their own personalities. They all offer different things. They all have different ways of offering them. Some of them are very nice and organized. Some of them are very chaotic and maybe on the dirty side. But you know what? Sometimes you have to be willing to venture into any of those dark caves if you are going to complete your quest to collect whatever it is that you're collecting. Because believe me, I know, I've been driven by that need in the middle of the night. Like, should I really bid on this Amazing Spider-Man issue 210? I mean, it's down this low, but I don't need to pay X amount for it. And if I don't bid on it, I'll miss it and I'll regret it forever. It'll be 10 times that amount the next time I see it. But that's what I'm trying to say. I understand that drive, that urge, that addiction, if you will, to collect what you're collecting, be it those comics, be it films, be it action figures or cosplay personas or what have you. Collectors, I'm one of you, most definitely. So where do we begin? Let's begin at the beginning. Okay, I'm going to take you over to the Comics Journal. They published a really nice article on this. I will post a link to it in the show notes. It is titled A New Chapter 11 for Diamond. Nice, clever title there. Written by Bridget Alverson. It says at the beginning, note this story has been updated to clarify Image's relationship with Lunar. Okay, there's no way I can read this entire thing to you, so I'm just going to bounce back and forth here and read over a few choice sections, if you will. On Tuesday, January 14th, Diamond filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and now the fate of the comics world hangs in the balance, or does it? We won't know for a bit, but if nothing else, this is a turning point. The basic facts are this. Diamond filed for Chapter 11 on January 14th. The purpose is to allow the sale of Diamond and all its assets, and that process has begun. Universal Distribution has submitted a stalking horse bid, basically a minimum bid of $39 million for Diamond's game distribution arm Alliance. Universal may also purchase Diamond Comics Distributors UK. They all the other pieces of the company. Diamond Comics Distributors, the thing we all just called Diamond in quotes, and Collectible Grading Authority CGA. As of the Chapter 11 filing, Diamond owed $32.6 million to J.P. Morgan and another $40 million to its vendors and others. The J.P. Morgan loan is a secured debt backed by collateral and will be paid, while the $40 million is unsecured debt that may or may not be paid in full. Many of the unsecured debtors are comic publishers who have not gotten any payments from Diamond for up to 2 months, which may be unsustainable for some. The largest unsecured creditor is Penguin Random House, which is owed $9.2 million. What happened? This is a great article that really covers everything. So let me bounce through this what happened part here, because they're laying it out in a way that I can understand it, and if I can understand it, hopefully you can understand it. What has happened to Diamond is, ironically, an unraveling of the exclusives that allowed it to dominate in the first place. In the mid-1990s, Diamond signed exclusive distribution agreements with Marvel, DC, and a number of smaller publishers, effectively locking other distributors out of the most lucrative part of the market. Remember, I talked earlier about how I was annoyed at Diamond initially and the way it changed the market when it first came around. Okay, well, that's what they're talking about there. From 1996 to 2020, the article continues, Diamond was the sole distributor to the direct market, but in 2020, history started to reverse itself. At first, DC and then Marvel left for other distributors, and most of the mid-sized publishers followed. The change was spurred by the pandemic. In March 2020, Diamond notified its business partners that it would stop distributing to the direct market as of April 1st. I'll skip down a little bit. Reactions to the closings were mixed. I absolutely applauded the decision to cease shipping books during COVID, said Joe Murray, owner of the Captain Blue Hen Comics in Newark, Delaware, and the current president of the Retailer Association Comics Pro. I don't think we would have survived during that time if stuff had continued to come out. Others pointed out that book distribution didn't shut down even in the early days of the pandemic, and many retailers did not close down either, using a combination of delivery, curbside pickup, and mail order to continue serving customers who could not enter stores. My own personal experience, I did go to one of my local stores during that time, and I kind of kept up with things when, understanding when books were not shipping, when they were shipping. I still went into the actual store itself to support them and bought some back issues, and actually bought a ton of long boxes because I'm trying to conquer this beast of a comic collection that lurks in my own studio. And I remember there was a shortage on comic boxes for like several months. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Now I'm trying to get this darn thing organized and under control, and now I can't even get comic book boxes to put them in. Like, they just don't make them anymore. So yeah, it was a crazy world at that time. Let me scoot down a little bit more here in the article. The other shoe dropped in March 2021 when Penguin Random House announced that it had set up its own distribution arm, PRH Comics, and its first client was Marvel. Because you understand, this locked Diamond out of dealing with Marvel, giving Diamond a little taste of its own medicine, so to speak. The two largest comics publishers were now with other distributors. Image went exclusive with Lunar in 2023. The Chapter 11 filing led to Lunar ending wholesale Image product to Diamond, while Boom Studios moved up the date for its already planned departure to PRH to April 1st. While DC is exclusive to Lunar, the other publishers were still distributed by Diamond on a wholesale basis. Diamond gets the comics from the distributors and ships them to the stores, adding an extra step, but allowing stores to order from a single source. I'm just going to say, if you're with me so far and you're listening to this and you are a store owner or you're a vendor of any type and you want to talk about this, I would love to talk to you to record a podcast segment for this. I'm still having issues with my video setup, so I cannot do live stream video interviews at present. That's something I'm trying to sort out with my provider, but it's not happening. But I would love to be able to do a podcast interview and have someone that's on the vendor side of this explain all of this stuff to me. Explain it to us laymen so we understand where we are in the midst of this and whether or not there's anything we can do about it. I mean, I guess at the base level, we can just support our local stores, the ones that are there. Go in and buy whatever they have on hand to help them stay liquid enough to stay afloat when they're dealing with this lack of payments from their various sources. So anyway, let me continue. In an attempt to consolidate and cut costs, Diamond decided to stop using its Plattsburgh, New York warehouse, shifting everything to its other warehouse in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Even this backfired, however, when the owner of the Plattsburgh warehouse forced Diamond to leave earlier than planned, and the distributor scrambled unsuccessfully in some cases to get product to the market in time, hindered even further by a January 2025 blizzard that briefly shut down the Olive Branch facility. Okay, so they continue the article by talking to a few different retailers and then talk about publishers changing. Let's see if I can just find a simple piece of info here for you. Diamond's unsecured creditors included Penguin Random House, which it owed $9.2 million, Simon & Schuster $600,000, Lunar Distribution, Almost Biz $421,000, Titan $353,000. The reason Diamond's debt to PRH is so high is that Diamond distributes Marvel and other publishers on a wholesale basis, so they pay instead of the publisher. Put at least one publisher in jeopardy. In its annual report, IDW noted that PRH paid IDW for IDW products ordered by Diamond, and as a result of Diamond's bankruptcy, PRH may not be able to collect all or any of the corresponding amounts owed to PRH by Diamond. Instead, PRH in an informal communication that they will take that money from future payments to IDW. As of the date of this report, we are unable to determine the potential impact, the report stated. However, it may have a significant negative impact on our future financial results and cash position. Nonetheless, the company stated in the report that it has sufficient cash flow to continue operating for its next fiscal year, which ends on October 31st, 2025. So there are several examples here with companies resorting to anything to try to survive. Here's another quote. This will be a heavy blow for us as it interrupts us during a growth phase. We'll have to reinvent ourselves, to Markey. For I have faith that we'll be able to do it and continue on the path we started. Other publishers were not so sanguine. The truth is, we don't know if we are going to survive this, the small publisher American Mythology posted on its website. We've reached out to other distributors, but no one is looking for small publishers to add to their distribution slates. We were exclusive with Diamond, and now we are facing a world where we may not have access to comic shops in the future. Diamond owes American Mythology months' worth of books, leaving the publisher on the hook for creative and printing costs. Black Panel Press has started a GoFundMe stating that $28,000, we need that money to pay our authors' royalties and to print our upcoming titles, plus everything else that goes into running a business, the GoFundMe page said. We have a plan to set things back on course, but we need help to get us through the next few months. After that period, either Diamond will stabilize or we'll have new distribution. Other publishers, including Vault and Coffin Comics, are setting up direct-to-retailer distribution in addition to other channels. So like I said, this is a fantastic article over at the Comics Journal. I love that the Comics Journal has always been there as a stalwart and a pillar of real comics media for us for decades now. And I do encourage you to visit their website and, of course, support Fantagraphics. But what does this mean for the rest of us? You know, we got down to something that I've talked about a few times. Here they have the various publishers resorting to retailer distribution or even crowdfunding. And we've talked about crowdfunding, and I've said, at least for us, at the independent level, those of us who do not want to take our ideas and have them stolen from us by Marvel or DC or whomever, because there are tales of strange things happening in other places. I suppose there are books being written about all of that right now, but unless you're in on the know, you'll know that creators are still having problems getting paid, even outside of the standard Marvel and DC model. But ironically, we're at this point in time where at least the genre of superheroics has moved into the forefront of public consciousness for quite some time. I mean, with the dual rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Cinematic, whatever it's called, expanded universe, the rise of popularity in both of those has increased awareness of superheroics, and by proxy, the fact that these things came from comic books, if nothing else, because you have to understand that Warner Brothers or Disney, in the case of Marvel and the MCU, they're not now, and they never have, and they probably never will use the actual MCU and their various IPs to promote the comic books, the whole comic book branch. Right now, what has happened to us is that the entirety of popular comics from the big two companies with the popular IPs that we know, the Spider-Mans, the Fantastic Fours, or the Supermans, Batmans, Wonder Womans, they are going to take your ideas. Okay, they only work under work for hire. They're not promoting comic books at any level. They're using comic books basically as sounding boards and storyboards. Like they are, in a lot of ways, kind of moving house styles towards like an almost storyboard fashion, where they're losing a little bit of the language and syntax of what goes into cartooning and sequential illustration. But that's an entirely different episode. So what do we do? Been saying this for a while now, and it's really borne out over the last decade, that crowdfunding is the future for us, for those of us that do not want to give our ideas away under work for hire, or we do not want to have them stolen from us by other companies that have gained footholds in this industry. The answer is to just go direct to the people. We have Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Found My Comics, GoFundMe's, everything. And maybe, just maybe, this final collapse of need. Now, what is to keep from losing the things that we cherish in this collapse of Diamond? For instance, Tomorrow Publishings, which I'm a huge fan of ever since their days of working with the Kirby Collector or Alter Ego. I still avidly follow their other books and releases. They have I'm on their newsletter. They sent out basically a clarion call for help, because they were struggling because they're not getting their payments from Diamond, and they're asking people just to go into their back stores and buy up whatever they have on hand, just so they can keep things afloat with that little bit of money. So I do recommend that you check out the website and archives, find whatever it is that they are selling that you want, even if it's just get yourself a PDF. I love to get PDFs of their magazines, because you get the whole thing anyway, even though it's not the wonderful, you don't get the wonderful physical copy that we're used to seeing in our when we do our comic book reading and backstory reading. But I'm a huge fan of Back Issue magazine from Tomorrow's, and I would love to see Back Issue continue. I mean, we need it to continue. We need the history of comics chronicled and archived and kept alive for the fans that come behind us. We see little bits of comic history disappear every day, every single day. I mean, we feel it when the greats pass away and everyone talks about it, but then there are other people on other sides, like the late great Bob Bierbaum, may he rest in peace. He was a comic collector and vendor from decades ago, from the time of the birth of comic fandom, really. And he was there when all of that happened, when the conventions rose. He was there in those back rooms, in those hotel rooms, buying Jack Kirby's missing artwork. So there are bits of stories in comic history that are out there that just disappear every day, and we need to have them chronicled and shared for ourselves and for the future. And definitely supporting Back Issue Magazine and Tomorrow's Comics is one way to do it. Okay, so just in case you're taking this whole episode as a bit of doom and gloom, don't feel that way. I want you to actually feel empowered by the fact that hopefully if you're an indie creator, you've already been thinking of Kickstarter. Hopefully you've already been thinking of Indiegogo. So at some level, we don't care what happens to Marvel and DC. We just want all the guys in between that are stuck in the midst of this war and these various monopolies. We want them not to suffer. We want them to survive and continue to thrive. But us artists, we're the cockroaches of this industry. It can't survive without us, and we're going to be here to the end. And we're always there. Every time you pick up a book, there's another batch of us right beneath it. But before I go on any further, I suppose it's long past time that we talk about today's sponsor. Today's episode of Comic-Jutsu has been brought to you by the Comic Book Shop in Troy, North Carolina. That's right, located in picturesque downtown Troy at 118 Bruton Street, Troy, NC. You can pop in there, pick up your latest, greatest selection of books, where they have the best selection of comic books and memorabilia in the area. Be sure to get books. Of course, they've got the first installment of Batman Hush 2. How do you say that? They made that confusing. Batman Hush 2. Of course, Absolute Martian Manhunter #1 is out. Justice League Unlimited. Kids, The Amazing Spider-Naut, if that's still your thing. Absolute Wonder Woman. The Poluminati, which is Deadpool infecting the Illuminati like cosplayers. You can pretend you're at your local convention. But anyway, and of course they have the universal release of The Mummy. So lots of good stuff waiting for you. You can pick up your books, then go right around the corner and get yourself a nice herbal tea or a Maco latte, whatever those coffees are called, and sit down and read your books right there in downtown Troy and tell them JT sent you. And you might even run into me in there myself picking up my own copy of Absolute Martian Manhunter, because that is a fantastic looking book and I cannot wait to read it. But before we do that, let's get back to the future of comics. Now that we know they are dead, where are they going? Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Fund My Comics. If you ask Rob Layfield, he says once you make some sort of name for yourself, you don't have to draw comics anymore. You just follow the big 3 C's. That's commissions, covers, and conventions. So if you have that name, there's that plan for you. You can take advantage of all of that. But it's worth noting, if you look at the stats for Kickstarter as of 2025, here we are in the first quarter, it says they have launched over 20,714 successful comic book themed Kickstarter projects. That's pretty darn good. Now, you cannot track the same stats on Indiegogo because they don't have the tools for it, but it's been used just as much. We've seen over the past decade that independent creators can make pretty solid bank from bringing a loyal following into a crowdfunding project. I think probably the most successful, love them or hate them, would be the rise of Eric July and the Rippaverse. Personally, I am a fan of the Rippaverse. I've picked up most of their books he releases them at a great clip now. I mean, the guy has really got his business model down pat. So let's see what Eric is actually saying today. He says, a lot of creators follow me, are inspired by what we've built with Rippaverse, so it's important to address something that many creative industries struggle with, business. And he puts in parentheses, business. That's him saying that. I mean, I'm quoting. Okay. Because we're transparent with our numbers, people will always analyze them, often without context. Now, again, I'm reading this to you because I admitted earlier, I don't care about the business part, unfortunately. I'm too entrenched in the artistic side of it. I mean, they're two different battles that have to be fought. But anyway, let's get back to what Eric July is saying. People will always analyze them, often without context. That's fine, but Rippaverse isn't playing the same game as your typical crowdfunder. We don't crowdfund. Or mainstream publisher. 90% of our sales are direct to reader, and we distribute ourselves. We release often, roughly 20 books just over 2 years. Now that does, I think he's including magazine publications as well, but they are books, okay? He continues, buyer habits shift when readers have variety and reliable delivery. We don't do evergreen crowdfunding. Unlike campaigns that stay open for years on sites like Indiegogo, our longest collection window has been around 75 days. Once it closes, the counter stops, and those sales are no longer visible. Post-collection sales are the backbone of the company. Since February 28th, after the Great War of Separation #1 collection closed, we've sold 847 more copies because we release frequently and across. Sales don't end when a collection closes. That's true. I've backed a few of his. Now, a lot of his books I bought on the secondary market, but some of them I did get direct from his website. I mean, you go to his website and you back his campaigns. And usually during the release or the launch of the current book, he will give you opportunities to add on the previous books, which, I mean, yeah, that's like crowdfunding 101. But I'm just saying, the guy's got a successful business model, so let's listen to what he has to say. So he continues, sales numbers aren't irrelevant, but misreading them can make them so. Even within the same company, direct comparisons don't always make sense. Not every collection has the same number of new items. Not every collection has the same price points. Not every collection is open for the same length of time or released under the same market conditions. For example, Yaira #1's base book was $25, which I think that's a good price point. It's actually what I've been thinking about for my own graphic novel. It was $25 with a nearly 80-day campaign window, and no other books launched in that window. Yaira #2 was $13 with a 45-day collection, but unlike #1, it was released during our ramp-up alongside several other projects. Even if both sold the same number of copies, the #2's total sales number would naturally be lower. The Horseman, Welcome to Flores Park, ran for 70 days at $25 base price. The Great War of Separation #1 ran for 30 days at a $14 base with no CGC signature series option, which he puts in quotes, which drives up book sales, which is totally nuts to me. This is my interjection. Because I hate CGC. I hate the notion of slab books. But if you're a person that brings you joy, enjoy it, so be it. I'm just talking about my own experience, obviously. Eric July continues, the numbers were never going to be identical in either book sold or revenue generated. Comparison without context is a shortcut to confusion. Worse, it can be a shortcut to a failed business. If you're a creator looking to build something sustainable, don't fall into the trap of surface level analysis. Just because you exist in the same industry does not mean you're playing the same game. Many creative businesses fail in business because they don't conceptualize everything that goes into it. If you want to last in this industry, you have to understand the full picture. Most importantly, run your own race. The Western independent creative and entertainment industries need to prioritize business just as much as they do their art. And man, I feel like he's looking right at me when he says that. So I think that's pretty solid advice from Mr. Eric July. I wish him the best of continued success. And I hope the books improve. I'm looking forward to issue 3 of ISOM. I enjoyed the design. I'm enjoying the story so far. The art has been improving with each release. And I'm sure with volume 3, it will be even better. And like I said, it's hard not to recognize the fact that we're in what could be described as a golden age for us as independent creators. Even though we're having these problems with our distribution models destroyed, changed, mutating, morphing, evolving overnight, the content is still out there. We just have to figure out how to keep getting it back and forth. For example, I just had another Kickstarter close today, one that I'm backing. I'm completely unrelated to. I'm only mentioning it because I love the art and I love sharing it with you guys and my fellow denizens out there of the Comic Book Dojo. Created by Trouble Studios, we've got The Hunter #1, a superhero horror odyssey. A writer possessed by a god, Stephen Conrad becomes the hunter, battling monsters in a superhero horror tale ripped from 1981. Again, he's talking right to me. That's the beauty of all of this, is if you enjoy these things, you can find a way to get out there and look at stories and books that really speak to you and appeal to you. And thank you for listening. This is JT. Of course, you can find the internet. Make sure, most importantly, you to Comic-Jutsu via your favorite listening platform, whether it is on iTunes or Streaker or what have you, or just over on the YouTube channel. That way you can get the latest and greatest news and words and proclamations straight from my mouth to your ears. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Keep making comics. Keep collecting. This is Comic-Jutsu. You've been listening to The Art of Comics.